look at why don't people? Why is this not important to people? I see all these people in business failing, all these people in business struggling, and I'm like, yeah, but you need to know how to sell, and you don't get that. Let me take my jacket off. I'm warming up.
The heating's coming on now slowly.
My mountaineering.
I'll tell you what we're going to do, because we are now live on YouTube. So Ashley, pin our link tree to the. Oh, you've already done it. It's already pinned to the top of the room, so we can bookend the YouTube recording. I'm going to do a quick reset, and then we'll be back after this, so it's all nice, neat, and tidy.
You are listening to Breakfast with Winners. Exclusive content direct from the Winners Club. If you are enjoying the conversation, click on the green Monopoly house at the top of the screen right now and join the thousands of winners already in our community. For even more actionable content and powerful lessons, download the free companion app now. Just search for the Winners Club in the App Store or Google Play. For more information about the Winners Club and how to become part of our growing community, head to thewinnersclub.club. Now, back to the show.
I'm trying not to bring attention to it. I'm so glad I've got a skin colour one. Imagine if I had a blue one.
We're back, and we was getting a story off air. I think this morning is going to be entertaining. We're going to warm up into it. We're all caught off guard a little bit, but we're going to warm up into it. Hello, welcome to, if you're just joining us, listening to Breakfast with Winners. We've got Spencer Lodge here in the studio with us all the way from Dubai. We've been saying all week that you've been coming especially from Dubai to come and see us. Don't tell anybody that's not the truth, because it makes us sound...
I came from Dubai to see you.
Better than we actually
I came from Dubai to Ilford.
It was nice once.
I left Sloane Square about an hour ago, and it just slowly got worse as I drove out of London.
Believe it or not, it was nice once around here. You're not far from here. You're Essex.
I think that's a load of old rubbish. I heard that talk about the other day. I've never known Ilford to have any aspect of night. Now, compared to Manor Park, I understand that, but compared to what? It still is Ilford.
Well, compared to Sloane Square, no, that's like, you can't really compare the two, but compared to the nearest borough, probably, yeah. It's like, no, it did. I remember growing up as a kid. If you go...
I used to work at Beckton Ski Slope.
Wow, yeah.
So that, all those years ago. And so I'd go to McDonald's every day in East Ham, so I know the area.
Yeah. It's funny around here, because if you go half a mile down the road, there's huge houses, you know, all relative.
Prisons, aren't they?
Prisons.
Just because you've got multiple rooms.
Yeah.
No, it is strange, Andy. You can go down an off-road and then it's like lovely big houses.
Yeah, well, Woodford's really nice,
Do you know an interesting fact about Redbridge, which is why this building's here?
No.
Well, it's not why this building's here. The building was here because it was the Prudential's headquarters years ago. It's here at the moment. Redbridge has the highest number of new start-up businesses registered anywhere in the UK.
Really?
Year on year. Probably because many of those are scams and fronts, but so be it.
Wow.
We've still got the stat.
Yeah, but that was one of the driving factors behind, so because we put £1 million worth of investment into this building, and it was one of the, we'd done a bit of research in the area and picked up on that stat. A member of my team come to me and said, you know, they've got the highest number of business registrations anywhere in London.
Wow.
And actually, when you looked at it, it was in the UK, in the borough of Redbridge. So, yeah, many of which probably foul, many of which are probably not for legitimate reasons, but the ones that are come and have offices here.
Wow.
So we're here with Spencer Lodge. We've got a list of questions here. We cultivated some questions from the room and of what people wanted to know.
We're going to get a different side of Spencer this morning.
Yeah, I've got a question, because I've heard you speak on this and touch on it, and we might as well get straight into it. I don't know where I heard you talk about it. I don't think it was your podcast. I think it might have been a Clubhouse room pretty early on when you spoke about your own sort of depression struggles. And I remember you telling me about a conversation where you went to see your dad, and you was, and if I've got the story right, forgive me if I'm wrong, you was going to see your dad to say goodbye.
No, that wasn't what happened. No. My dad was involved. So I decided that I'd had enough of life. And I was pretty clear on what I wanted to do and how I was going to do it. I just needed to go back home and, say goodbye to my kids. And so I flew to Heathrow. My driver guy brought me home. And as I pulled into my house, which normally do, my driveway had my dad's car on. And my dad lives in a place called Sedgefield, which is near Newcastle. And it was like, he never comes to my place. And not only was his car on the driveway, he was inside my house, and he doesn't have keys to the house. So I walk in, he's like, "Hey son, how are you?" And I'm like, "Great." I'm like, "What are you doing in here?" He's, "I oh, the housekeeper let me in. He said, go and grab yourself a shower because you just got home, and I'll make you a bacon sandwich, and I've got someone I want you to meet. And so I went and had a shower. I didn't really know much what was going on, but I didn't think for 1 minute he knew my plan. And so we then got in the car, and he drove me to the Priory in Chelmsford, and introduced me to the psychiatrist. And he said, go and spend a bit of time with him. And then the psychiatrist convinced me to stay for a few days, and that few days turned into about a week and got me through where I was emotionally and slowly out the other side. And
how do you think he picked up on that? Just by your language, by the way you were speaking to him? Do you think because I'm guessing you spoke to him via telephone conversations only?
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea. No idea. Maybe I don't know this, so I can't speak for him, but maybe he'd experienced something himself like that in the past. I don't know. But it was when you get depressed and you get to the point of wanting to take your own life, you're not dramatic. You know, it's quite clear and clean and kind of clinical almost how you behave. You don't, you know, it's not like you're full of drama. You've made peace with it, and I made peace with it. And there's been a couple of times since where you're depressed if you think about killing yourself. You know, if you think about killing yourself, and I don't mean just to flip and kill yourself. If like every week you think about taking your own life, or different ways of taking your own life, or you know, what would be the easiest way to do it, or you research it at all, then you need help. Really need help. And I don't think there's enough. And there'll be people listening to this right now that will identify with this for sure. But I don't think there's enough people that are almost aware of how other people feel, and in a working environment that goes missing a lot of time. People have deadlines, they've got things they've got to achieve, and you know the boss is on them. But if you really knew what was going on in people's heads, and sometimes you feel like yourself, don't you? I wish people would just understand me a bit better. Now you say that yourself, and if you knew what was going on in people's heads, you'd probably approach them a little bit differently too. But yeah, it was a tough period, a really tough period, and yeah, very very sad as well. And I can't believe the fact that I'd even do that to my kids, you know. Yeah,
and that's coming. You know, I'm guessing that was in the period of time where you stepped back from your business, and
so what? So okay, let's put all the cards on the table and be true. So, I got fired. Okay,
yeah.
And I got fired because I messed up a couple of things. I'd helped build a business for 16 years. I was one of the shareholders, one of the directors. I was responsible for 50% of the company's revenue in many respects. And so I'd worked hard and was known within that industry as someone who was successful. But I was also arrogant, larger than life, bit of a knobhead, you know, that kind of stuff.
We all go there.
I was earning a load of money. Anyway. The way that I got fired is something I can't discuss because there's a confidentiality agreement around that, but it isn't pretty. I went then into a space where I just signed and agreed not to work for 12 months. And I was going to be paid in full for that 12 months. And that was the worst thing I did out of all of it. Because signing up to not work for 12 months when you'd worked 15 hours a day, every day, all your life. For the first 3 weeks, it was great. I travelled, I saw my friends and stuff like that. That 3 weeks ended, and I still had 11 and a bit months to go. And I just spiraled down and down and down. There was one period where I didn't go to sleep for 3 days. I was going to the gym twice a day, and I was just pacing around the house all night, my mind going. I couldn't do anything about it. I literally couldn't do anything about it. And so that's the period that then took me into the place where I almost took my life.
Is that waking up with like no purpose? Just
nothing. Yeah, no purpose, exactly. No purpose.
And it's coming from that high intense background of a sales floor and things like that. When you love it like you say you do, it's such a buzz to be around. So then if you're going to go from that high intensity, good people, good laughs, business to pacing around your front room, it's a dramatic change.
It's not just that, Ash. It's when you work really hard and you work long hours, the people you work with become your friends.
Yep.
And when they become your friends, you think they are your friends. Like, you really believe they're your friends. And bear in mind, I'd sacrificed everything, moved overseas, lived in 10 different countries, you know, and so all these people in this business really were my family.
Yeah.
And then, bang, overnight it was gone. And then within a few days, no one was allowed to contact me to start with. I didn't know that. Wow. So I literally had all my friends disappear overnight. Just imagine people that you go out with every weekend, the people that you play tennis with, the people that you play golf with, the people that you're doing water sports with, the people you're partying with, all of those people, everyone that's intrinsic in your life, okay, outside of your family, gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Horrific.
So that was like the spiral of sort of sending yourself like mad. Like,
Sending myself mad. Yeah, good way of saying it.
And that's that. You know, you can see it, you can feel it. It's just you can't imagine, because if you're within 15 hours a day, so you're like, oh, your family, they're your friends, they're your life. Like they say, like you spend more time with people you work with than normally your loved ones and your family.
Especially when you're overseas, because you leave your family behind when you're overseas. And so leave your friends behind. And so slowly that relationship with your friends back home kind of dries up.
Yeah, it disappears.
And so these people that are in Dubai or in Bangkok or in Sao Paulo or in Hong Kong, wherever it was that I was living, they're your friends of the time. So, yeah.
And how long was that period? You know, where you were stuck in that, I guess, in that frame of mind?
So I was stuck in that suicidal frame of mind for probably 6 to 9 months. It just got heavier and heavier and heavier until we got to that point that my dad helped. And then after that, I'm not sure I fully recovered ever. I think certain situations can take me really deep and dark and low and down, like really into dark places. And I overthink things. So I go into that space and then overthink it, and I wind myself up with it. I can't let it go. And it sticks in my head. And so, yes, there's triggers. So I don't think I've ever fully recovered. I think that I have good times. I have good moments. And so, you know, it's like when we did the EMC, you know, that weekend for me, okay, did I want to be in Brighton? No. Did I want to be paid for it? Yes. Was I? No. But I had so much fun, you know.
The man that can take care of that's on stage, actually. So if you're listening, take note.
I think, and I have a lot of fun, because it automatically that weekend felt like I had a bit of a community, a family. Yeah. Yeah, because I had all the banter with you boys upstairs. I had all the stuff. And when you're needed and you're wanted, okay, that kind of stuff makes you feel good as well, you know.
It's funny how we get triggered, isn't it? It's funny what takes you back to, because I had a similar. We had a little incident within our community. I wouldn't even say it's an incident, but it was a situation, set of circumstances that unfolded over the last 2 days, and actions of a few really triggered me. And I'm quite balanced in terms of my views, and I'll usually come back and be quite calculated in terms of like, what's the bigger picture, and let's get back to that quite quickly. But some people say it can take 90 seconds to fuck up your life, can't it? But if you're triggered and you make an emotionally charged decision, and I nearly got there yesterday, and or day before yesterday, wasn't it? And I sat down last night, and I was talking to my wife about it, and I was sort of very self-aware. Why did I get triggered so much, and why did I go back to? And it's funny what you say about when your friends abandon you, because 14 years ago, my first ever business failed, and I went into personal bankruptcy. I had a director guarantee for factoring, quite a large factoring facility. Client knocked us. I couldn't pay back the factoring guarantee. I couldn't pay back the personal guarantee, and they called in the debt. And who I thought were friends at that period in time, and who I thought were ally, or like people that were close to me, clients, you know, owners of other businesses that were our suppliers, the people that you hang out with, the people that you socialise with. When I went through that period of time, all abandoned you immediately and really quickly. And a similar situation, but not as similar, happened over the last couple of days, and it triggered me to go right back to that point. And it's I'm not somebody that I would say I've ever suffered from depression. I would say I've never really had my own mental health challenges, but maybe I've never really woken up to it and realised it. But clearly there's an issue from that period of time that needs to get resolved, because to slip back and be triggered to go back into it quite quickly is a worrying thing. Now, I moved on quickly from that yesterday. I'll move on and just get on with it. But it's funny what that can do to you when people, you know.
I think that Jordan Peterson says it really well. It's like when you have situations like that, you must deal with them immediately. When you have those types of issues, if you deal with them immediately, they don't fester.
Yeah.
Because all that happens is if you wait 24 hours, it's just building up. Let's deal with it now. You know, when it builds up, it just becomes worse. And so I think, you know, we all have our challenges. And, you know, some people skip merrily through life.
Yeah.
without a care in the world. And I wish I was one of them, you know. But I just think we need to. I just think we need probably to pay more attention to the people around us. And also, again, your actions as well cause problems, you know.
Yeah.
I'm reckless and spontaneous like you wouldn't believe, you know.
We haven't noticed.
I do things, I do things that I regret. I do things that I shouldn't do, and I annoy people and I piss people off. But it's not because I'm out there intentionally trying to do that. I am that kind of character. I'm not a studious, cautious, analytical type of person, you know. And so if someone comes up with a good idea, I'm the first person to jump in it and go, come on, then let's do it then, you know, without doing my research.
Well, imagine me and Spencer with ideas.
So, yeah.
We'd be going down different routes.
Right, I tell you what we'll do. We'll get on to some of these questions because these are good questions, and then we'll take some more questions from the audience with what comes out of this. This first question's great. It's to do with your podcast. I'm a big fan. I've told you this, but a big fan of your podcast. Your podcast was. I think Gary Vee says about do your 40 hours of research, doesn't he, on something? But for the past sort of 6 months, everything I read is around Web 3.0, blockchain, NFTs, crypto. That's thanks to your podcast because you've had some great guests come on and really open the eyes to the basics of it. But James actually put this question forward. Your podcast has gone on a bit of a journey. You've gone from interviewing entrepreneurs to doing your own content to now having sort of really super interesting conversations, eye-opening conversations on various topics, really, because it's quite varied, isn't it, your podcast? Yeah. How do you go back to, because you've gone very heavy into and we know from the documentary, sex trafficking and bad stuff that's going on in the world. How do you go from seeing all of that and having those conversations on the podcast to then going back to the reality, normality of being in Dubai and opulence and because they're two worlds apart, aren't they? Which I think is what makes it good.
I suppose it is and it isn't. Remember, Dubai's next to India.
Yeah.
We're 2 hours from Pakistan. We're very close to a lot of poverty. East Africa, it's not far away from us. So I think it's easy to think that we have opulence, but we have people that have no money. We have people that there's lots of great charitable organisations and foundations in Dubai that try and help in areas where there's people that suffer more. So I think I get exposed to some of that. I try. Well, again, the podcast has led to the documentary.
Yeah.
The podcast has led to me getting involved with all of the young girls from Bangladesh that I help. That's literally what's come from the podcast. So do I switch off and go back to the opulence? No, because I'm not really. 10 years ago, I'm Champagne Charlie, yeah? I'm just not interested in that anymore. You know, my wife keeps saying, get a new car. And I'm like, I've got a car. She's like, yeah, but you need a new one. I'm like, but I got one. And she's like, get a new one. I'm just not into those types of things. I get so much more satisfaction out of trying to help those girls from Bangladesh or, trying to put this documentary together. And then meeting people that have just got incredible stories. Stuff, just unimaginable stuff. It's just really, it makes you very humble. It also makes you realise that you're very lucky. And there's a lot of people out there a lot worse than you. And I just, some people say to me, I can't listen to your podcast, Ben. It hurts too much with some of the guests. And I get that. But, and there's one coming out that's actually coming out on YouTube, only on my YouTube channel, not on my podcast channel because it's too long, with a lady whose story is probably the most horrific story you'll ever hear in your life. And she can't explain well enough what happened. The only way she could explain it was by getting her artwork on the screen and getting her to tell me what the artwork was and what happened to her when she was a kid in New York. And so
she relives that via her drawings.
So she's got an Instagram page, and when you go to her Instagram page and see the drawings, they're very shocking. But she finds it hard to kind of to explain herself until you put a picture in front of her. I'm like, right, who's that? What's that? What's this? And she explains what's going on. But she moved from Ireland to the States when she was young. She was 3 years old. Dad had a bar. Underneath the bar, when she was 3 years old, was a room, and Dad would take her to work a few days a week, which at 3 years old, what's a 3-year-old doing in a pub, And then I can hear an echo.
It's Ashley.
And then what happened is there were other men and other kids, and it started with some abuse, and it got much worse. And if anyone knows anything about this kind of stuff, there was the MK Ultra involved, and the CIA put a program together many years ago called MK Ultra. They brought ex-Nazi soldiers over after the Second World War to run the program to try and brainwash children so that they could turn them into killers. Okay, so this whole thing happened, and these people have been, it sounds mad, doesn't it? These people have been part of that exposure.
I've seen on your Instagram stories, you've walked through sort of shanty towns or,
Slums,
slums, basically. And does that I've never been in that situation. Do you go to sleep at night? Does that stay with you? Do you carry that, or have you?
I don't. The surroundings don't, because when I was a kid, I spent a lot of time in Nigeria, so we had lots of poverty there. So I became kind of hardened to that. So no, the environment, no. The people, yes.
Yeah.
So you meet incredible people, and those people, those human beings, stay with me. And all I have is that overwhelming desire to want to try and help them.
Can't
what can
help
I do?
Everybody though.
No, I know. But what can I do to help? How can I help? One guy said to me, "I just need some blankets." I'm like, done. Okay, but all I'm thinking is he needs a job. Okay, that's what he needs. He wants a job. How can I find him a job? How can I help him get a job? And so, the people and their stories, you just care about them. But the environment, I think I'm a little bit numb to.
How's the documentary going?
So we've got more filming in March and more in May in America and in the Philippines and Colombia. So we're kind of halfway through it now.
You've been is it Amsterdam?
Amsterdam, and in Spain I was in Madrid and Almeria. Almeria was where you saw the slums of the people that were trying to get work.
Yeah, which is mad, because that is
on your doorstep, isn't it?
Less than an hour away from really, really, really nice places where we all go on holiday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is mad, crazy.
And they make the best tomatoes in the world in Almeria, and they've got, as far as the eyes can see, these greenhouses, like for miles. And the farmers need workers. And so these people come across, the workers want to work, they want to pay tax, they want to work, the farmers need them, but if they don't have their papers, they can't work, and the farmers get fined. So you've got this catch-22 where bureaucracy is in the way of people trying to get on. And I spoke to a lawyer down there, I said, what's the solution? He said, stop calling people refugees. They're not called refugees when they go to Dubai, are they? They're called expats. Why can't we call them expats if they're coming from West Africa? Why can't there be expats coming to work?
Yeah.
He said, and let's change the thinking around it and be more accepting of those types of people. And nobody leaves a really tough environment just for the sake of it. Nobody comes out of Afghanistan going, yeah, I'm leaving just for the sake of it. You've got family and heritage and everything that's familiar to you. You're coming out of that tough environment to find a better way of living a life. There's a better future for yourself. And if any of us try to find a better future for ourselves, what's wrong with that?
But is that a better future where they're actually going? Is
with the hope of a better future.
Yeah, because
then this is the thing, they get stuck, don't they? It's like and I don't know too much about it. I do know a little bit because I've but not too much. Is people cross the channel from France to the UK. Mm-hmm. They're doing that from a place of the bureaucracy has caused them to have to be in the UK, to have to be on the UK shores to claim asylum.
Do you really think that people get on those boats and risk their lives in freezing waters just for some free money from the social services? Really?
Some free NHS.
Gee, man. I mean, the mindset of some people is ridiculous. You have all these people going, oh, don't let these people in. It's like, what do you mean don't let these people in? We went as a country and went and conquered big parts of the world many years ago and put our flag in the ground and said, right, we're going to dominate. Then after the Second World War, we invited everyone from the Commonwealth to come and rebuild the country. And then there's all this attitude about people wanting to come and build a better future for themselves. Compared to the amount of people on the planet, in the country, and the small amount of people that come across on the boats, I'm sure we can accommodate them.
Yeah, and there's also a whole economy of jobs that people that live here in the UK don't want. Mm-hmm. Which is a sad place, because you're in a situation where you've got people in the UK that want to take benefit of the services that are given to everybody and the benefits that come with that, and not do the work and not do certain jobs. And then there's certain people that want to come to fill those jobs that can't do those jobs, which is just, you're right, bureaucracy, isn't it? It's terrible.
It makes you think, like, where are they coming from to risk their life over freezing seas just to get to the UK? Like, that it must be worth the risk. That's their life they're risking to get here.
When they get here, though, and they realise how cold it is, I wish they probably think they should have gone to the south of France. They only have 6 days of summer. Nobody told me this.
But it just highlights how bad where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. To take that risk, The reward must be better than the risk.
Oh, absolutely.
We will never know. We've never been in such a desperate situation, have we? That
we're very lucky.
Yeah, when you forget, and that's right. You forget how lucky we are. This is a really interesting question here. Has Spencer ever been arrested in America?
Well, the answer to that is yes. I was arrested driving too fast, taken to the local police station, then taken to the county lockup, and then
What's too fast?
I don't remember. It wasn't like it wasn't crazy fast. It was it was just too fast.
What car?
It's a Lamborghini of some sort.
A higher Lamborghini.
There was a group of us that were
okay.
in an event where we were driving across America from New York to Montreal in Canada for the Formula One, and people were stopped for speeding, and then I was stopped and arrested, and I'd never been arrested before, and so it was a bit scary going to prison or the jail, and then to court. Then the following Monday I went to court and got an $800 fine, and that was the end of it.
So how long was you in jail for?
6 hours.
Okay.
How long did it feel?
Oh, it felt like an eternity. I was terrified all the time I was in there. I was in a cell with 6 people and or 5 other people, and it was
just for speeding.
Yeah.
Apparently they come out of nowhere though, don't they?
Yeah.
The little birdie that told us that asked that question said there's a really funny story behind it.
There's no funny stories behind it. Maybe there is a funny story, but you ain't hearing it.
Oh, right. We'll move on to the next one. I'm going to go. I'll try and put some order to some of these. Right. What's the biggest? This on the surface of it sounds like a very basic question, but I think it's an interesting one. What's the biggest lesson that Spencer's learned from his failure? So in that difficult, I guess your failure would be that difficult time in when you got fired.
I've learned that your actions not only impact you but others, and you need to be very careful of the impact your actions will have on others. I think that's something I learned a lot. So that's a really big lesson. That's something I still struggle with now, because I'm so impulsive. Like Ash says, it's like something exciting comes along. I do a bit of research and then I'm like, let's go, let's do it, without thought of all of the risks or the dangers attached to it. It's just like gung ho. And I think I've learned that you don't be too hard on yourself and don't be too hard on others. I think a lot of the time we just have really high standards for other people. We expect other people to be, phenomenal and fantastic and reliable and honest and, and that kind of stuff. And sometimes people aren't. And it's not because they're trying to do something to you. It's because maybe they're trying to protect something, or maybe it's just their way. And so I think rather than jumping down someone if they get something wrong or make a mistake, I think it's try and understand it better. Try and understand it and see what you can do to rectify it with those people. So those are kind of some of the lessons I've learned.
Who's the most interesting person you've ever interviewed on your podcast?
Interesting. Ooh, that's a good one. I've had so many guests on the podcast now.
The one that stands out.
Raza Jaffa was great. He asked me, literally at the end of the podcast, he said, "What are you doing next week?" I'm like, "Why? I've got meetings." Why? He said, "Do you want to come to the Vatican? I've got a meeting with the Pope." He said, "Me, the Pope, and the Archbishop of Canterbury get together every 6 months for a coffee." And I was like, I couldn't believe it when he said that. So that was quite interesting. Who was really interesting along the way? John Assaraf was really good. The guy from The Secret, really enjoyed him. I love talking to people that are in the crypto space, and so I learned so much from those. Raoul Paul was a great speaker. He taught me so much. Robert Breedlove's out this week, I think, or next week, and so he was great as well. Going back, people with remarkable stories. So Annika Lucas, I think she was the. I had Nick Yaris on. He was singly the most powerful interview I've ever done. So he was on death row for 20 years for a crime he didn't commit. So I had him on. That blew my mind. And then I had Annika Lucas, and she blew my mind with her journey of what happened to her. So those two. And I'm still, in touch with Nick now, and we catch up from time to time. But I suppose those two, and it's not fair on the others because there's so many other great guests that have been on the show.
What blows your mind about their stories? Is it the Oh, is it the resilience, the unbelievable resilience that they show?
It's the horrors of what they went through, and then how they look at life now, and they look at life with gratitude, and they feel blessed, and they've got every right not to.
Yeah.
You know, you go to death row for 20 years for a crime he didn't commit. You got every right not to be grateful about anything. Yeah, he left that prison with $5, and it is the only prison in the country that you couldn't sue. So Pennsylvania, you can't sue the prison service. So he's there 20 years. He left with $5. That was it.
That takes an unbelievable
Strength.
well, I think an unbelievable ability to take your mindset to a completely different place that none of us will ever probably need to take it to, doesn't it? Like elevating your thinking to a completely different.
He was not allowed to speak for 3 years. Silence for 3 years.
That would send you insane.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, when you say about your story, where life took you, do you think that was the making of you today? Like, so if someone's struggling right now, some of the struggles you had, like, you embraced it, you overcome it, not with ease, but like you had guidance.
Look, that journey made me a better human being. That's what it did. It made me a better human being. I don't. Everyone's struggles are different, but some people can react and take on board what they've gone through and use it as leverage to the future. And some people can't, and the people that can't are the people that need help, because they need someone to help them and guide them.
So they're still going through the pain.
It's what do you call it? It's never ending. You're just going around in circles.
I always like to ask as well. So you've had the life of luxuries, the fast cars, the big ego when you was doing things. Do you think like you have to go through that to humble yourself, or do you think, because I speak to a lot of people that have been there, done it, and now, as you said, like you don't need a new car. Like your car does.
Do you know what I think it is, Ash? I just think we grow up.
Yeah.
I just think you don't see many arrogant, obnoxious 60-year-olds, do you?
No.
Because I just think that we kind of like we just evolve, and we I look back at my behaviour some of those years ago, and I'm like, oh, what an idiot. I'm like, I'm ashamed of myself when I look at that. But in that moment, I didn't think that at all. I look at some of my, I mean, even to this day, I make mistakes and get things wrong and feel like an idiot for it. But I think that when we look back at being arrogant, I think for a lot of people, it's a phase in their life they go through. I think that some people handle it better than others, and I think some people care more about what other people think than others. Because why do you do those? So why do you have the flash cars? Who are you trying to impress? It doesn't matter what car you buy. 2 weeks after having that car, it's a car. Yeah. It's the first 2 weeks is great, and then it's just a car.
You're always chasing the better car.
Yeah, and if it's a nice car, then you're always worried about damaging it, and so that becomes a stress as well. But it's just a car. That designer handbag, that designer shoes, whatever it might be, they just become things after a few weeks. But who are you buying it for?
You're buying it to impress people that don't even care, really.
Yeah, and one of my really big focuses is to make sure always, when I buy clothes, I try and buy clothes that don't have any labels on. Whereas 15 years ago, it's like, where's the label? I want to see the label. And I literally buy clothes and I cut, or if there's labels, I cut all the labels out.
It has a bad connotation to you.
I don't want to be labelled in any way, which is interesting, isn't it, when you think about it?
Yeah, there's a deeper.
Yeah.
Why? Is that from years of buying designer suits and feeling like you needed to?
It's judgy, isn't it? It's just like you can be judged. I don't. My kids are like, Dad, have you got any other colour than dark blue and black that you wear?
That's all I wear. Most men of our age, though, that is the standard colours, isn't it? For our age, I'd say.
And my wardrobe's just like dark, black, and grey, and navy. But I think that's. It's just I like to ask the question because I hear a lot of people that have gone through that journey, and they're like, I'm glad it happened to me. I'm glad I bought that stuff. I'm glad I was an idiot because now I know what I don't want to be.
What's interesting though is seeing people that get stuck there because you're right. We go through a journey of being a complete idiot, don't you? And then you wake up, something happens, and you're like, right, okay, this has really got to change. Something's got to change here. But we all probably know so many people that get stuck in that place of just being the idiot. Like they get suspended there and never have that realization. Like carnage goes on in their life, and it's always everybody else's problem. It's always everybody else's fault. They're absolutely fine. They're doing nothing wrong. It's everybody else's fault. And they just bounce through life, continuing to be the way they are.
Yeah, get it.
It's interesting. Right. Okay. Another quite interesting question. Let me go. What part of building your businesses, the journey, has been the hardest? Would you say?
Loneliness.
The bit that you found, the loneliness.
Loneliness. Yeah, loneliness, without a doubt. I don't like being alone. I like, again, you when you mature, you start to be able to identify and address what you are, if you're self-aware, what you are. And I'm not somebody that can do things. Like you built your business on your own. Yeah, I don't like that. I like to be part of a team, and I like to be doing something with people, and I get my energy from people. And when I don't have that, it's really dark for me. So I don't like the loneliness.
How have you overcome that? Just by making sure you've always got a team of people around you, or?
It's a constant battle.
Yeah,
it's a constant battle. I try and make sure that I'm not on my own for long periods of time. Yeah,
is that because you become accustomed to probably your journey of building around, so you was familiar with just a good team, good people, and you enjoyed that, and it's like because you enjoyed that so much, you make sure you stay in that place.
Well, if we're going to be really, really honest here, and let's do this for Clubhouse, I don't see myself as a success at anything. And if I look at my businesses, I don't see myself as being successful at building them. There's other people that have built those businesses. Okay, I've got them started and other people have taken them over, but I don't see myself as successful. The only thing I look at that I can say I was successful at, like truly unequivocally successful at, was being a salesperson.
And taking action, really.
Yeah, it's like that. When I had to go through my whole career, I was always a really good salesperson. Everything else is open to interpretation, and lots of things that people think I am in terms of successful and all that, I can't see that at all.
Is that because you can't identify, you can't relate to the results? When you're a salesperson, you're getting the direct feedback of the result, aren't you? Because you're making that sale and you're getting the feedback. With your businesses, if you stepped away from them, somebody else is doing that.
Yeah.
And
somebody else is getting it. Yeah, so I don't feel connected in that way to those. So you're right. But I mean, you take the Make It Happen University. I went through every agency on the planet that funnels, Russell Brunson, top to bottom, inside out, Matt, all of them, okay, that could do it. We couldn't get that working. Okay, I couldn't make that business profitable. I literally couldn't make it profitable. And the only way, the online stuff, the only way of making that business profitable was going out and doing corporate stuff, which you get paid well for, but is soul destroying.
Yeah.
So I don't look, and loads of people in business fail, like loads of people. And people here right now, one man band, struggling, all that kind of stuff, and I get it. And I feel for those types of people because it's tough being successful. And I think that if I went back and I had my time again, and I look at the things that gave me the most joy, I'd probably just stay a salesperson.
And do you reckon because in sales, like as you said, like you don't look at yourself as like what success is in sales? Like you're as good as your last week, your last month, and in them environments, it was like you stop talking about what you did last month, what you did last week. So you become accustomed to like, it's a new day, it's a new this, and you're always trying to push that sales forward. So it's like, don't live off past results. So
yeah, I think a lot of it actually is recognition, and when you get recognised and acknowledged and revered to some degree, I think that all plays into stuff that I clearly need to feel good about myself. And so give me a competition, let me go toe to toe, let me go, against everyone. And I will, when you put me in that position, you're not going to beat me. I'll die trying. You ain't going to beat me. It's just, I will work every hour under the sun. I'll do everything I can to win. And that's a real, for a very competitive aspect of me. And then that's why I think the sales stuff is good for me, because it's something I'm good at and I can win at. And so, again, leaning into those types of things always helps, doesn't it? Rather than putting yourself in a position where you can get found out very quickly at not being very good at lots of other things.
Well, on that line, you're saying lean into? So you would say, like, because the thing is, I've gone through, when I first went on my own, I thought I was a businessman. And I lost every bit of money, every investment, because I thought I was a businessman. What is your advice now to people that is, like, I was very good at sales and I come from the sales background, and I thought because of that, I was a businessman. So I'm investing everywhere, opening businesses left, right. They all didn't work. What would you talk about when you like give the advice to like the audience today? It's like, even me, let's refresh me. It's like staying in your lane. Like, what's your view on always staying in your lane, testing?
I think you're better off if you're good at something and there's somebody else out there that's good at the other things. I think you're much better off partnering with those people rather than trying to learn all of those things, because I think when you partner with those people, they bring skills that you don't have to the table. And for me, I have, of all the skills needed in business, let's say there's 50, let's just say there's 50 skills. I have 1 or 2 of them. I'm useless with money in terms of how I allocate it for business. I'm not analytical. So I don't analyze stuff. I don't analyze risk well. And so when we look at business, bring people in around you, whether that's employing people or partner with people, whatever that may be, but bring people around you that are really good. And don't just sit there, and when you bring those people around, you say, right, that's your job, you get on and do it. Take time to learn about that as well, because you don't know whether they're doing a good job at it or not if you don't understand it.
I just reminds me of when I couldn't find the right people. No one could seem to do the job, Paul, could they?
It's always someone else's fault.
Yeah, but and I think it's so right. You've always got. I think stay in your lane, but understand the requirements that go on the other path.
It's difficult when people are trying to build any business, isn't it? Because you have to wear many hats on day one, and you have to do all of those roles. You have to be the financial director, you have to be the CEO, you have to be the marketing director, you have to do all of those roles yourself. But to have the self-awareness to say, do you know what, I'm really not good at that, and let somebody else do that. That, I think, is probably like one of the biggest keys to success. And if you asked any entrepreneur, it's realising what you're not good at and get somebody else to do it, as opposed to try and wrestle through the journey and do it yourself. It took me probably 10 years to work that out, of like battling and just thinking, why is this not going the way I wanted it to go? To go, well, actually, you're an idiot. Somebody else could do that a lot better than you can.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're stubborn, aren't we? A lot of people are stubborn, okay? And it took you a while, took me a while, and don't be so stubborn, you know. Just don't try and be all things to all people. You never win that way, do you? I don't think.
No. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to have a quick reset, and we'll be back after this with some more questions. We've got about 3 or 4 more questions here on the list, and then we'll open it up to the floor to the audience of people that are here listening to ask some questions. Stay with us. We'll be back after this.
You are listening to Breakfast with Winners. Exclusive content direct from the Winners Club. If you are enjoying the conversation, click on the green Monopoly house at the top of the screen right now and join the thousands of winners already in our community. For even more actionable content and powerful lessons, download the free companion app now. Just search for the Winners Club in the App Store or Google Play. For more information about the Winners Club and how to become part of our growing community, head to thewinnersclub.club. Now, back to the show.
Oh, does it not?
When you're on stage.
Sorry, we're just If you mute the phone, because sometimes when you're on stage, I don't know if Clubhouse will let you mute. That's the feedback we get sometimes through the microphones. We're just overcoming some technical challenges, getting Spencer to come into the room so you can all follow him and message him directly for the great wisdom that he's given out. Probably annoy him as well. All the DMs. Right, welcome back to Breakfast with Winners. We are here. We're talking with Spencer Lodge live in the studio about all things that he's done over his journey and the difficult points, and actually being quite vulnerable this morning, which is good. We should have more of those types of conversations. We've got some quick fire questions that people have given us, and then we're going to open up the floor open up to questions from everybody that's in the room. Right, okay. I think we've covered this off. Key component to scaling any business.
There's not one key component. I think there's loads. But self-awareness is
pretty important. Stepping out your own way and getting realising your weaknesses and getting somebody to fill those gaps. We've sort of covered those off. This is interesting. Who would you say is the most important person that's been on your journey? Has there been a mentor or somebody that you've looked up to that has guided you along the way?
So my business partner Danielle, I think she's been really, really important. I look at people. There was a guy called David Schillingus that taught me how to sell right at the beginning of the journey, and a guy called Eric Pomfret as well. They were at the beginning of the learn how to sell. So they're really significant from the beginning of the journey. And then there's various people that kind of come into your life and share wisdom with you along the way, and teach you to understand yourself better and what you're doing better. But they come in for a period of time. But I've got a lot of gratitude towards Dave Schillingus and Eric for teaching me how to sell. Yeah, I think they were the valuable ones at the very beginning, and then obviously over the last, I've been with Danielle for 16 years. So they're Danielle.
And that's challenge. To keep a business partner for that long is challenging as well, isn't it?
Well, Danielle and I worked together. She became a business partner 8 years ago, I think. Yeah, 8 years ago.
Okay, so she sort of she was working with you, and then she
then
became so valuable to you, needed to be a partner, basically.
She's incredible, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right, okay. What do you want your legacy to be, Spencer? What does Spencer want to have written on his tombstone when people remember who Spencer is?
I don't care. I'll be dead. I really don't. I really don't have an issue with that. I'll be dead. What do I care? I don't believe in reincarnation. I don't believe in afterlife and all that kind of stuff. Once you're gone, you're in the ground or you're cooked up and you're spread on a golf course or at the sea or something, aren't you? So yeah, I don't think legacy is important to me. I think that obviously you want to be remembered for making a difference. That's all.
Yeah, and that's what you want from your podcast and documentary. Don't you? You want to highlight this to people that hopefully makes a difference.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your thoughts before we open the floor to questions. You've interviewed a lot of crypto people.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever heard you speak on your thoughts of who's that? Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard you speak on what your take is on crypto and Web3 and blockchain and you've interviewed some cool people that are big in the space.
Yeah. I think that you'll listen to the Robert Breedlove interview. He's exceptionally smart, and I kind of agree with him with regards to cryptocurrency, that Bitcoin is the kind of be all and end all, and I don't think anything else really will be the long term stable coin that exists. There's too many of them. They come too quickly. They go too quickly. So I think a lot of them are nonsense. I think that the metaverse is here to stay. I think that NFTs, not as they stand right now, but NFTs as a structure and as a component will become very valuable to so many different businesses. I don't think JPEGs of artwork are worth anything. But becoming part of a club or a community by buying an NFT and getting the benefits of that community, I think has a value. What kind of a value? I'm not sure that some of the prices being paid are that. I don't think people should be paying $400,000 for a plot of land next to Snoop Dogg on the metaverse. I think that's a bit nuts. But I think it's here to stay. And I fought against the internet when it first came out. I said I'd never bank online and stuff like that. But I do, and so there's no point fighting the metaverse where it kind of has existed anyway for a while for a lot of people. It's not like it came last week. It's been out there. The average bloke on the street isn't aware of it because he's not on what do you call it, his PlayStation.
Like your podcast last week, Fortnite, the game has been around for how many years, and Roblox, that is the metaverse. That's a version of it, isn't it? It's people living in a different reality for that moment in time playing that game.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That was a great interview as well. It was last week's one, wasn't it?
Maha.
Yeah.
Maha Bulanin. Yeah, she works for Gary Vee. She's lovely. She's a very smart lady.
And you're right what you say, and I've heard you say this before, it's we can't be ignorant to it and ignore it. And I think that's the easy view is to go, oh, do you know what, it will never last. But you can't keep saying that, can you? You've got to wake up and educate yourself on...
Yeah, you have to learn. And do you know what? There's so much conflicting information. So, who's telling the truth? Who really knows? Who's guessing? And so you have to be very careful of who you listen to. But like everything with these type of things, do your research, do your homework, study, learn. Don't just get into cryptocurrency because it's a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah, the Raoul Paul interview of your podcast, I would recommend that to anybody to go and listen to that.
Awesome.
That was really, really good. We'll have to try and get him on as a guest actually in here, because that would be a really good one. What's the one book? You a reader? What's the one book you would recommend to anybody?
So I listen to books rather than read. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, I think, was a very powerful book. He was a psychologist that was in the concentration camps in the Second World War, and he was analysing people in the camps and who would live and die, and how we always look outside for meaning and purpose, but we have to look inside for it. That was really kind of like a really powerful book for me. Jab, 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 Right Hook, I thought was a good book too. It taught me about social media and how to behave around social media, but I think that was a really important book by Gary Vee. Good to Great, Jim Collins, I really enjoyed reading that. That was a great book. And Jack Welch, Winning, that was when he was the boss of GE. He wrote a book called Winning, and that was a great book. And that's a really, I don't read books like that very often. It's a really thick book, and it's a good book. You can't put it down. Yeah, you want to read it. And then outside of business, then my reading and listening is more about, mountaineers and people that do the kind of things I'm interested in. And so stories about that.
Did you struggle with social media when you first to get your head around like the concept of it? Because you've come from a world where you didn't need social media.
I still struggle with it, if I'm honest with you. If you consider the amount of content that I put out, the amount of effort that we make, and the money that we spend, it's nuts. It's genuinely nuts. And the amount of followers I've got. I mean, 30,000 followers on Instagram, 60,000 on Facebook, 30,000 on LinkedIn. It's for the amount of time, effort, and energy that's gone into it. I should have millions. And it really gets on my nerves when, some bird puts a bikini on and gets a gazillion followers, It's just like, I'm not wearing a bikini, by the way, so that ain't going to happen. But it just... either people, not enough people like my content, or I'm just an old guy that shouldn't be on social media.
It's just important to highlight that, because a lot of people don't recognise the money that it costs to put a really good podcast together. Like the team of people behind it, to actually do it properly. Mm-hmm. People don't realise that, do they? They listen to it on their phone and they think, oh, this is great, mm-hmm. but there's a team behind that.
It's thousands, like thousands and thousands and thousands that we spend every single month on finding guests, on producing stuff, on filming, on editing, on posting, and all that kind of stuff. So I post my podcast stuff on LinkedIn. Nobody even comments. The micros, nobody even comments on LinkedIn. Nothing. If I do a written post on LinkedIn, I get lots of comments. If I do a video micro from the podcast, nothing, nada.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. I don't know if there's something behind that. Like when we used to do podcast clips and put them up, and nothing. Like the engagement on it was, I don't know why. Any Instagram pros?
I'd say you're not interested enough, mate. That's the problem. Not interesting enough. Right, let's open this up to some questions from the wonderful people that are here on Clubhouse with us. Nearly 200 people in the room. Flash of microphones, guys, if you have a question for Spencer based on what you've heard this morning. Let me just come up and down here. I am going to go to, I tell you what, I'm going to go to Toby Slade first. Toby, good morning, my friend.
Morning, Paul. Morning, Spencer, and everybody else.
All right, Tobes.
Hello, mate. With the sales background, how do you... I think confidence and arrogance can be misunderstood and mixed by people. What can I do to prevent, or how have you prevented people seeing you as arrogant when in fact you're just confident, you know what you want, you know what you're doing, and sort of you've got that laser vision?
I'm not entirely sure that I was ever just confident. I think I grew into that. I think all the time I was arrogant, or people could identify that I was arrogant. When I look back at it, I was. I was an arrogant, obnoxious arsehole is what I was, Toby. I just thought my shit didn't stink. I was amazing. And, that's the brutal truth of it. I've evolved into somebody that's a more confident person. But if other people think you're arrogant, and that's not just one person saying it, not saying you are, Tobes, but if other people, a number of people think you're arrogant, then it might be time to look in the mirror, because you might be.
I would say, if you're good, always be open-minded to other people's point of views, because if you're not open-minded, they'll look at you as arrogant.
Yeah, always got to be open-minded. Good point, Ash.
Because, when you do that because you're confident in your way, but in sales there is literally hundreds of different ways to do it. So show the open-mindedness to learn other people's routes, and they won't look at you as arrogant, and you're educating yourself.
Do you not think you need a bit of arrogance to run your own business? No.
I don't think you need arrogance. I think you drive and confidence and belief, but I don't think arrogance serves. No.
Great question, Toby. Great answer. Right, guys, flash of your microphone. Sorry, we haven't got a list. I'm just going to come randomly to people down the stage. Joel, good morning.
Good morning. Hope you're all well. Morning, Spencer.
Hi, Joel.
Spencer, my question for you is, you've done a lot of work with helping people out and that. There must have been some things that have kept you up at night. What's the one thing when you've seen out there and you thought, crumbs, that was really hard to deal with and keeps you up at night?
I think the most powerful thing are the girls that I help in Bangladesh. So the children in the slums in Bangladesh grow up. When they have their first period is when they're allowed to be married. So they then get married off at the age of 12 or 13 to men in their 30s. They are gang raped. They experience horrific treatment. And so when I first started meeting those girls, I was really, really moved. Like, really moved. You know, when I'll give you an example. I was first introduced to them, and the lady that said, do you want to meet them, said, where do you want to meet? I said, we'll meet in the mall. She's like, okay, right. I said, we'll take them for ice cream. She said, well, just be careful because they've never had ice cream. I was like, what? They'd never had ice cream. I was like, wow. And so then we took them to the fun fair. They'd never been to the fun fair. We took them then to the hypermarket with some trolleys with a friend of mine. And I said, what do they need? She's like, they need everything. I'm like, well, okay, well, what's everything? She went, it starts with an E, everything. And I'm like, well, everything. They're like, she's like, start from the beginning and go to the end. They need underwear. They need girl stuff. They need clothes. They need shoes. They need a hairbrush. They need a toothbrush, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, wow, it really, really moved me. And so I then realised that I was falling in love with these 12 kids, like, because they had my heart. They really had my heart. And from then on, all I wanted to do was to try and help them. And some of them have grown and gone on to education overseas, and some of them are still in Dubai. But they sit with me. Probably, I think about them at least once a day.
Thank you for your honesty on that.
How do you control that? Because if you've got like a lot of power to really change, like you could then like how do you control the giving of that? When you like, it must be quite hard when you think.
You know what? I was with Grant Cardone, and we were sitting chatting. I said, I want you to meet the girls. And him and Elena are like, yeah, we'll meet the girls. And the girls show up, and they're fab, you know. They're just fantastic kids. And so the girls show up, and they're all over Elena and Grant. And he's like, what can I do to help? I said, can you take them to America? And he's like, sure. I said, put them on your stage. He's like, done. And he flew them to America with Maria and put them on his stage at the 10X Growth Con and let them tell their story. And so it's not always about money. Sometimes it's about awareness. You know, the whole reason for the documentary was because of those girls. The whole reason. And so they have impacted me so much that I just feel compelled to want to try and help and share their stories as much as I can. And if you see the pictures that I've seen, you know, Maria, who brought them into Dubai, has to teach them how to wash. These kids have never washed outside of being not fully clothed, but half clothed with a bucket of water. They've never had a shower. It's been in the open. They've never, washed properly. They don't know, the basics that we all just take for granted. And so, yeah, that kind of stuff. I don't like people suffering. I really don't like people suffering, and more so, I don't like women or children suffering. That kind of is something I can't get my head around.
Being a father of girls, I take it.
Yeah.
That amplifies it as well.
So do you still support them? To those girls, yeah, there's a charity organisation, I'm guessing, that Maria
Christina Foundation, yeah, we support them as much as we can. Various people, Lisa Johnson, a good friend of mine, various people I know, they make a contribution every month. Lisa pays for their food and all the girls' food, and so various things that are done. And the whole objective is to get these girls an international education. So we get them into Dubai, we try and get them educated in Dubai, and then we try and get them university internationally somewhere. So Portugal is a popular place, because Maria's from Portugal. But the kids have been all over the world to different universities. And she's taken 600 children now over the last 10 years or so. 600 kids out of the slums of Bangladesh. and got them all international educations.
I take it that beats any designer top, any supercar.
You tell me about it, yeah.
You can just see it.
I've got an update just to divert the course of conversation just very quickly on Ashley's electrical skills. So apparently,
my auntie's in the audience. I take it.
Apparently, Ashley's dad, granddad, and great granddad were electrical engineers. Or are electrical engineers. So I don't know where your inability to recognise that the fuse that was on the shelf was not plugged in.
Well, my granddad always said to me, "You're not going to work for me because you're going to go further than me." And
did he? Or did he say you can't work for me because you won't reach fuse box?
No.
Oh, you've not heard this bit, have you? This is so as well as he's had
as well as looking.
He's had a bad morning, right? So as well looking out the blind to try and see the car park, and wondering why he couldn't see out to the car park because it was pitch black. That was the first part. So then he's followed me to the electrical cupboard to try and work out what's gone on. The electrical cupboard's obviously got boxes and boxes of fuse boards for all the different spaces. So we're looking at it. Everything's on. So I've walked away and I'm now going to go down to the basement, to the switch room in the basement where the main intake comes in. And he's gone, no, Paul, what about these four? These have all switched off. I'm sure I checked everything, so I've gone back. And in the electrical cupboard, there's a little ledge, like a shelf. And sometimes where the fuses go wrong, the electrician leaves spare fuses in the cupboard so he can just swap them out. You know, the RCD fuses. But the ones that were off were the spare ones that were just sitting on the shelf. Not connected to anything.
Don't worry. When I did work experience at my granddad's company, they actually my job was to go round and just test things worked. Just that works. Well, they all did the technical stuff. Yeah, I'm not the electrician guy. I didn't say I'm not a sparky. I was just trying to help. But he was like, "What do you mean there's some off?" Come running back, and he was like,
I nearly threw that fuse at you at that point in time. Yeah.
This was at 25 minutes past 6.
Yeah.
And this was pitch black. There was nothing on.
So there we go. Shocking that their skill and knowledge is not rubbed off on you. Anyway, flash your microphones, guys. If you've got a question for Spencer. If you've got Spencer for the question, that was what I was going to say. If you've got a question for Spencer. I'm going to come to Mary, Freya, David, Sales Angel and Elliot. Mari, go for it.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. So wonderful, the shares. I'm just loving this discourse. My question to you, you were talking about being a great salesperson. I've done sales at different times in my life. And one of the things I've been very wary of, because I've been on the wrong end of salespeople who are creating these win-lose situations where it's just pure manipulation just to get the sale. How have you been able to avoid that, if you have been able to avoid that?
Ethical selling. What a
Everyone blames salespeople, don't they? Bad salespeople, good salespeople. They always blame the salespeople. But at the end of the day, if you sell something you believe in and you believe it's going to provide a solution to somebody and genuinely you believe it, then you're an ethical salesperson. If you sell something you don't believe in, then you won't be. If you're selling just because you want to make money and you don't care what happens to anybody else, then that's unethical. There will always be, in every industry, good and bad people. But I think selling what you believe in makes you ethical.
100%.
Does that help?
Thank you. That is excellent. Thank you.
Freya.
Hello, guys. So I have a question for you all, really. What is the answer to sell me this pen?
It's find out what the client's looking for first.
Yeah, you know, that's exactly how she's bang on the money. It's the answer to sell me the pen is dead simple. What do you need? You know, if you can find solutions to people, if you can give people what they want and help them find, you know, what they need and solve the problems they have, then you'll always be able to sell everything. But sell this pen is, I think, I got asked it when I was at my first interview. Exactly, at my first ever job interview in sales. I went to the interview. Do you know what? I was in Romford of all places and bought my first ever suit, and it was green. God knows
for
why.
Larry Money green, or it was just green?
I don't know whether I bought it in Mr. Buy Rights or whatever it was, but it was a green suit with, and I went in to buy a suit, and the guy had me dressed down to my underwear and had me put socks on, shirt, tie, cufflinks, you name it, shoes, everything, top to bottom. And I went for my first job interview, and I sat down, and the guy said, "Sell me this pen." And I'd never sold anything in my life. I didn't know what he was talking about. But yeah.
You obviously passed.
Yeah, I got the job. Yeah, I got the job. I think anybody would have got the job that day. So,
I was trying to put a bum on seat.
I knew my postcode.
Yeah.
I could write my name on a piece of paper.
Have you seen the talking of green suits? Because I watched this yesterday. Somebody said, "Oh, you've got to watch it." There's an interview from years ago, George Best on Terry Wogan, when he. I'll find you the clip. He's got a really great green suit on. Like really, because he's a character, George Best, isn't he? He's got this big shirt and a green suit on. It's brilliant.
I thought I was the bee's knees. I thought I looked amazing. Cream shirt. What was I thinking?
I went for a phase of I think it was braces, the coloured socks, everything coloured the same colour.
Wow.
I look back and I think, what did I do?
Yeah.
It makes my skin crawl. I'm trying to remove every picture of some of the free pieces and the colours that I was wearing.
I don't think even in the city now. I know brokers that still work up in the city for various companies, and they don't wear suits anymore. It's like suits are gone basically.
It's only the LME really left that they've got to, and probably Lloyd's that they've got strict policies or they get fined.
Really?
Yeah, that's the LME. If your shoes ain't polished, you get up to a £500 fine. If you're, it's because it's recognised.
They're talking of closing Lloyd's, aren't they? I saw a news article the other day. Lloyd's of London is gonna be disbanded or closed. David Sales Angel, then Elliot, I think was the order, wasn't it? So David, good morning.
Morning. Hey Spencer.
Right,
I actually just wanted to say thanks. Spencer came on my podcast and he spoke to me about half an hour before. Gave me 2 bits of absolute genius wisdom, and it's been a massive help. And you're really one of the big people out there that I really look up to. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for everything that you do.
You're a gentleman, David. He's a great sales trainer, Dave. Proper good sales trainer. I think he's fantastic. I love his enthusiasm. I love his passion. I love what he's trying to do to help people. And people need more people like Dave around helping people.
That would be a great competition, wouldn't it? So all the legends of sales that we're speaking about line up, and they all get one question: sell me this pen.
Well, it's the same answer. But the thing is, what you hear. So when I hear Spencer give stuff, I hear Dave the Sales Angel give stuff. Like there's a lot of similarities in the training that you can see we've all received, because you sort of understand, and you can sort of see the backgrounds we've all come from, because you can see they'll say something and you think,
well, at some point, sales training evolved. Somebody started that. And then it's just been layered on and layered on and layered on. But the general underlying message has been from whoever that one person was.
Dale Carnegie, How to Influence People. I think it was one of the first ones. Zig Ziglar was one of the early ones, wasn't he?
Brian Tracy.
Jim Rohn.
Yeah.
Yeah, you all learn from them. But yeah, How to Influence and Influence People, I think that was one of the books that you had to know.
Yeah.
You had to read
one
that.
One of the must-read books.
Yeah. And it's crazy, but the thing is, I think when you are in sales and you have that open mind to listen to other people's ways of selling, and you learn something new, you're like, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. And you, like when I learn something new and I hear something, like I've heard Spencer say things, I've even heard Dave the Sales Angel say things, and I think, oh, I love that. And I think that's when you come from that environment, it's like you get like proper buzzing off it. I'm trying to say the right word.
Elliot, good morning.
Morning, guys. Great to wake up this morning to hear Spencer's voice, and all of you guys, of course. Spencer, you came onto my radar properly at EMC, and I want to thank you for what you did on stage. I love the frank, no bullshit sort of approach you have to everything. And it's sort of almost been a bit of a mentor to me. So I've been sort of watching what you're doing and really like your stuff. So what I'm interested in, though, so we hear a lot about how to do things right, but I seem to be more comfortable with talking about the things how not to do and the fuck ups I've made. So I'm intrigued. What's the biggest fuck up that you've made, that you've learned the biggest lesson from, that's helped you to achieve the success you've got now?
The biggest. I mean, I've made a bunch of them.
Me too. And I'm still doing them.
Some of them are bigger than others. I mean, yeah, you know what? There's so many. It's so many. I made a big cock up the other day. I did something like massive cock up the other day with something, and it was just. And I've just been like, oh man, why did I do that? Why did I do that? But I just think that because we're all going to do that, and you know, I do that more than others in some respects. I can only just try and be humble and try and be kind to myself and not beat myself up, and hopefully learn valuable lessons. And you don't always learn lessons. Sometimes you do the same thing over and over again, and you cause problems. But I think I just have to be more aware of my actions and the impact they'll have on people, I think. And so I can't give you one specific thing, mate, but I really do appreciate the question.
That's your talk at EMC. You spoke, talking to the subject of EMC, the first EMC, didn't you? And last year, and you're back this year.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, actually, if you missed it earlier on in the week, you can click on our link tree, which is at the top of this room, and on there you'll see EMC early bird tickets, and the tickets are now on sale for next year's EMC. So you can come and join us. I think your talk last year is going to go down in folklore within the Winners Club, because it was very entertaining.
What did I talk about?
You spoke about, well, you started by assassinating every single business coach in the room.
I remember standing up in the balcony, and then Paul looked at me. I just remember you looking at me, and I was like,
Yeah, there was
as you're telling me that now, I'm sitting there thinking, what was I doing?
There was character assassination of the business coaching sector, full stop. And then what was great is that the business coach had to then follow you on stage. Brilliant. Brilliant. But no, the thing is unfiltered views can go one of two ways, can't they? They can get you in hot water sometimes, and I'm sure you've been put in hot water.
Yeah, very much.
But actually, they can give you a dose of reality, which is bloody true sometimes. And I think that's what came out of EMC, because there's an ongoing debate, isn't there? We've had it in this room many times. You know, do you have to be experienced to be a coach, or do you have to be experienced to be a mentor? And people have such differing views on that. Some people are saying, well, no, you can be a coach. You know, you don't have to have experience in the thing to be the coach. You can have coaching skills, and you can coach somebody. But I do think that sometimes, especially with business coaching, you miss the, you know, I don't know. I think what basically you was getting at, and my views are the same as you. You know, if you're going to coach somebody on building and running a business, if the only business you've ever run is coaching people to run that business, I would say you're in dodgy ground of, you know. But then there's the argument of, is that mentoring? Is that coaching? It's an ongoing debate, which I don't think you'd ever solve, you know. But personally, if I'm going to employ somebody to help me on my journey in terms of business coaching, I want somebody that's been there and done it, you know. And that's the thing with the education movement and education space, isn't it? There's lots of people that just replicate what others are doing and tell people the information, and not necessarily have implemented that or gained experience from building something. And I think that was the message that you delivered, quite frankly, at EMC.
The thing is, I think when you're in business, it's like as you just said, it's that fine water. It's like if someone's going to teach you how to do it. I need to have seen them do it. That's just personal. But then you could look at it as like, are they just there for accountability, just to make sure you don't go off track? So that's when I think they need the definition of a coach and accountability coach, because an accountability coach could be phenomenal for an entrepreneur that's here, there, and everywhere, but they're not the guys that are going to teach you how to scale up. Because
we used to have before I started my own business, when I was in the fire brigade, and because I joined the fire brigade at 18 and done 9 years in the fire brigade, and there was in the London Fire Brigade at Tottenham, and there was a saying, and it was it's those that can do, those that can't teach. And that, not in context of business, that was in context of, you know, people used to get to a certain point where they didn't want to run into fires anymore. So they'd step aside and they'd go into training. And usually that was people that were of an older age and they had kids, and they, you know, and when you actually look back and you think of that, and the moment if I was still there and I would have reached the position I'm in now, I wouldn't want to be putting myself at risk when I've got 4 kids at home. So you can see why people would make that shift, but it was always seen, looking down, as those that can continue to do and those that can't teach. And it was
famous in a movie, wasn't it? Was it Tom Cruise? Was it Cocktail or Jerry Maguire, when he was in the lessons and he was learning? It's like, why are you teaching me to do? Why are you going on about me learning something that you've never done yourself? And I think, I just, you know, we have different opinions, don't we? I mean, I've had various debates with various people in this clubhouse room about it as well, and I have my opinion, and I'm not saying anybody else is wrong. It's just I just really believe that I, like Ashley, if I'm going to learn something, I want someone that's walked in my shoes first.
Yeah.
That's how someone can take you from a 2-year plan to a year plan, because they're going to say you're coming up against this hurdle very soon, and you're coming up against this, and you're coming up against that. Like, I've dealt with people that have said, like, you're going to be facing this problem very, very soon. And I'm like, thinking I'm being a big bollock sometimes and not acknowledge it. And then it's like, see, I told you. Now I'm like, what else am I going to be facing in the next 6 months? And they go, this, if you don't sort this out. And that's you helped with that.
Yeah, but see, there's an argument that that's mentoring, isn't it? And not necessarily coaching. You know, somebody looking at where you are and saying, this is the type of stuff you're going to come up against if you're not careful. There's an element of that being mentoring. There's a fine line, isn't it? I don't think we would ever settle the debate. No. He's biting his lip, his tongue so much. Spencer's nodding away, but not saying much.
But the thing is, when I had a conversation with you, like, when I was trying to clean things up my side, I couldn't even, like, some of the things you were saying to me, I was like, that ain't going to happen. In my head, it isn't going to happen till the first thing happened. And I was like, and then he was like, told you so. And then it was like, sweet, what else? Fire at me. Please just fire at me. What else is coming? Because I remember just turning the taps on and it just went bang. And I was like, and he was like, now you're going to listen. I was like, yeah. And I could listen because he told me it was coming. It was proven. And you've been there before. And that's how I learn. But that's an opinion. That's my opinion and the way I learn.
So Spencer will probably decide what he's going to speak about at EMC the morning of EMC, probably. But Spencer's there as one of the speakers of EMC, so definitely click on the link at the top. If you haven't already done so, you can go and get your early bird tickets. There's only limited number of those super early bird tickets, the cheapest price they're ever going to be, that are available. Also, we on the day that we done EMC, we announced our sort of joint collective mastermind with Matt Wilson, which you're one of the founding contributing members of. You're going to come along and join us, aren't you, on one of the weekends?
So I've been told.
So you've been that'll be great. No, we've had some good people join as well in the last sort of 3 days, which is really good.
I'm surprised with some of the people who joined it.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good and really exciting. So again, just click on that link tree at the top if you want to go and see any of that information. You can find the relevant links on those buttons. Let's take some more questions. Flash of your microphones. Okay, I'm going to go Janice, and then I'm going to go Sarah, and then we'll ask for flashes again. Janice, good morning.
Good morning, winners. Good morning, Spencer.
Hey, Jen.
And do you know the thing I remember? Sorry, I've just been walking on the beach. The thing I remember from EMC was you talking about referrals, actually. And I know your opener was about the coaching and all of that. But actually, I remember everybody was really blown away with your talking on referrals, and that's what stuck with me. So I love that you've been so open and honest and vulnerable this morning, and talking about the things that you've spoken about. And I just wonder, for me, because I love, Viktor Frankl, I come from that sort of background and have trained in, mental health and all sorts. And I just wonder, what do you do now? Where you sort of, and it's quite a personal question in a way, but I don't mean it to be, on your spiritual journey. So what do you do to go within? Because a lot of that stuff that you were talking about, where all these difficulties come up, and like when the job disappeared and the people disappeared, and therefore, as you were talking about Frankl, you lost that meaning in your life. Where do you find meaning today? Is that a spiritual thing? Is it meditation? Is it because of the good works that you do, the altruistic stuff? What is it that provides meaning for your life today, and where do you look for that? Thanks.
It's a really, really, really good question. So thank you for asking it. Meaning, where do I find meaning? I want people to win. So when I spend time with people, I want people to be better, be more successful. So I find meaning in that. I find meaning in the work that I do with the girls. I find purpose around making the television documentary. But as I say, I've battled with depression now for many years, and so sometimes you're in a really good place, and you find your way fighting forward, or when you're struggling with your darker days, you struggle to find meaning in anything at all, which is a very challenging position to be in, because you can whether that's what's it called nowadays? It used to be called manic depression. What's it called? It's got a fancy term now, isn't it? Manic depression. Bipolar. That's it. Everyone's bipolar now, aren't they? I think I just have to take one day at a time, if I'm really honest, Janice. Just one day at a time. So yesterday I was with my kids. I came back to the UK and I spent some time with my kids, and so that was my focus. This morning I knew I was getting up early because I was coming here. That was my focus. And so I try and think about one day at a time. So if I think too far ahead, it can either overexcite me or it can make me feel some despair.
Yeah, thank you so much for that answer. And did you ever go into, meditation or mindfulness, or you use certain things?
Yeah, I've got a yoga mat. I sit there with my legs crossed and every now and then. But no, and just that's a joke. But the fact is, no. My way of meditating, purple like a JP Sears. No, I meditate when I run. So I run quite a bit, and so I think that is my meditation. If there's anything. I've tried, thank you, Ash. I've tried various stuff, Janice, and with mixed results. Some has been rewarding and beneficial, and other stuff hasn't. And I think each to their own as to what they can do. But you have to really look after your mental health. I don't like the way that nowadays it's so kind of like buzzy mental health, and it encompasses so many areas. You're basically talking about the whole population. We all have good days and bad days, but the trouble you then have is the people that are really struggling, you don't identify as easily because everyone's having good days and bad days and everyone's talking about mental health challenges. So, there's obviously various levels of it. Make sense?
Brilliant. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you very much for going there. Thanks.
Do you find your mountaineering a form of meditation? Because I know you love your mountaineering,
that's all I think. I love climbing mountains. It's one of the greatest things I do. Just getting out and going on these mountaineering expeditions. I think about nothing else than the next step ahead of me each time. And so that's really good. That's really good for me. I come back from that. I'm always disappointed when it ends. I get to the end of it, come back down the mountain, and I'm just like, I want to have a hot shower and stuff, but I'm disappointed that it ends.
You done a big one recently, didn't you?
I did Elbrus last August. I did Elbrus. Obviously done Kili and Everest and Toubkal in Morocco.
You done Everest base camp, or you went?
Yeah, I went to base camp plus Kalapatar, which is a bit further up.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to get to the top of Everest. I want to do Aconcagua. I mean, if you're into mountaineering, then you know what those ones are.
Yeah.
Big Seven, Carten's Pyramid and stuff like that in Indonesia is another one.
The Netflix documentary is great, isn't it? About the
Nims, yeah. I had him on the show as well, Nims. He was great on the show. And then I saw him when I was climbing Elbrus.
Really?
So we were climbing Elbrus and bumped into each other. It's like, what the shit are you doing here? So it was great. And he's fantastic. I love him. I love his drive. And when he tells you about what it was like joining the British Special Boat Service when he's 5'4" and he doesn't understand English humour, and everyone's like 6'4" with blue eyes, and he just like comes up to their waists. Doesn't understand English banter and stuff like that. He's quite a character.
What he done in mountaineering terms is just
he's only been climbing for 7 years.
I know, bonkers. Yeah, brave and bonkers, proper bonkers. What's the? Have you had any sticky situations when you've been mountaineering? Did you?
Yeah, when I did Elbrus recently, I fell, and we were on the summit climb, and I fell, and I was saved by the ropes. I nearly gave up at that moment. But they said to me it's only 15 minutes to the top, and so I was like, okay, I'll keep going. He lied, but
2 hours.
Yeah. But the snow was really deep up the top there, and so there we had a sticky moment there. I did a tuk-tuk adventure. I did an adventure race on a tuk-tuk around Sri Lanka with my friend Sean, and we filmed that. You'll see that on YouTube. And Sean was driving. I've started to doze off in the back of the tuk-tuk, and Sean went round a bend and rolled it down a hill. And the tuk-tuk was destroyed. He was thrown out of it, and I was in the back of it and cut all my head open and everything. So that was a bit hairy. And nobody knew we were there because we'd gone down a ravine the other side of the road. So you couldn't see us from anywhere. And we had to climb back up the ravine. And yeah, that was a bit scary.
that was the first sign of mountain climbing. Rolling the tuk-tuk and having to climb up.
Brilliant. Sarah, you've got a question. Good morning.
Sorry, I didn't take off the mic. Hi, Spencer. First of all, I just love your podcast, and I also follow you on Instagram because I'm so interested with what you're doing with these young people for the sex slave side of things. And the reason for that is because there's something I'm really passionate about because I deal with a lot of young people that have been involved in that. And what I wanted to ask you is I also deal with young people that haven't had to go through those things, and I find it really difficult sometimes when I'm sitting down with somebody that hasn't had a difficult upbringing, but they talk about their mental health, and that stops them because they self-sabotage themselves because they think they're worthless. So for me, it's a really difficult thing. How do you switch from people, when you listen to people that have had some really, really hard lives, and they're still striving and they're still doing, their attitude is completely different to the ones that probably have been very lucky compared to those people. That's my question. Thank you.
I'm not sure I exactly understand that. How do I what exactly? How do I?
So how do you relate? Do you know? Because sometimes
Are you talking about somebody that's been through terrible situations versus people that haven't?
Yeah, totally.
What, and the people that haven't not getting it?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you why, because I help a lot of young people get into work or help them start their own business through the hair and beauty sector. So for me, at the beginning, when they come to us, we talk about where they want to be, basically. And sometimes they've probably been at school and probably not enjoyed school, but I often find sometimes it's because they've been overprotected, and once they go out into the big bad world, it's like, whoa, do you know what I mean? Whereas then I'll be sitting with somebody the next day who has literally had horrendous upbringing and, is fighting, and I find sometimes that quite difficult to relate to. So I just wondered if you must have people that you work with that's happened, and how
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Look, those people that haven't had it as bad as others, you still don't know how bad they've had it. You still don't know what their situation is really like, and it's not necessarily what their home life is like. It's people have demons in their head, I'm, on the surface of it, you can say that I'm all right. I don't have many challenges in life. Life's easy to me. I should be sat there full of gratitude, but I have terrible demons inside my head, and no fault of my upbringing, and so I just think you should treat everybody with kindness and understand no matter who has a problem, their problem might be really significant to them. And if somebody can't understand somebody else's problem, then again, I just approach it with kindness, really, because we can't expect everybody to understand something based upon how we interpret it. We're all different, and that's what makes us all beautiful human beings, because we're not the same, apart from Donald Trump.
Thank you. I think I do that. It's just that sometimes I find it, I get frustrated that they don't see how good they are themselves, if that makes sense. So sometimes, when you're sitting down and you see someone and they're just so down on themselves, and I just think, no, you're fine. You're gonna be great. And I find that really difficult sometimes.
I think you just have to keep encouraging people, I think, and just try your best. I think that's the best thing to do. And if you tried your best, then that's all you can do.
Yeah, I'd always say, like, in them situations, understand their perspective, because as you say, everyone's got their different level. Get to their perspective and then elevate with them. Like, don't always try and pull them through. Like, go and get where they are, then educate them up. Don't just keep trying to pull them up because they're missing the rope. Go down and elevate together. That's I would say.
Yeah. Great question has come in via the back channel. I was saying strange, still saying that, doesn't it? How did you end up in Dubai, and why Dubai?
So I was living in Holland before, I lived in Holland. I was commuting back to the UK at the weekends, and then the company that I was part of, we bought a company in Dubai, and there were 3 directors, and one of us had to go and run it. And I was just getting divorced at the time and going back to the UK every weekend and being with my kids, who were very small then. And I was literally working all week and all weekend as a dad with young kids. I had no life outside of that. But by going to Dubai, it was, you go to Dubai and you can go back to the UK every other weekend. And so I didn't see the kids every weekend, but I saw them every other weekend. And then I had a chance to have a bit of a life for myself to move on and stuff like that. And so it seemed like a good idea at the time. And then for a decade, I commuted every other weekend from Dubai to London.
That's a lot of air miles.
Yeah, I did over 100 flights every single year.
Wow.
There's a lot of airport waiting time.
Yeah, a lot of that. I became super slick in and out of airports. I could get there. You know, I knew every way of getting in there as late as possible.
Yeah.
You know, straight. I mean, I would get out of the car at the taxi, and I would be straight on the plane. There wouldn't be any detour along the way.
You had understood the timing.
I had a mate in security at one of the airports as well called Keith. And if Keith was on duty, he would just take me all the way through the front of security. And
I've got a friend who runs a relatively large organisation and business here in the UK, but lives in Mallorca. And he does Monday to Friday in the UK. Not COVID, it's obviously changed a little bit, but Monday to Friday in the UK, and weekends he'd be back to Mallorca, or Monday to Thursday in the UK and back to Mallorca. And he says he's got it down to like a slick operation of getting in and out of Stansted. You know, it's like in, out, you know, literally. And the commute's not that bad. You know, considering people spend 2 hours on a train sometimes to get to London from within the UK, it's not that
the
bad.
Amsterdam flight was 45 minutes.
You don't even hit the clouds in Amsterdam, I think, from here. Like, you go up, you go back down. You don't even get a drink if you sit in the middle of the plane.
I'm guessing you love life in Dubai.
Yeah, life is. I mean, when I come home, it's nice to be home, and it's nice to be with people that are from home. But I've lived in Dubai for 17 years now, and so
it's custom.
It's now home.
Yeah. Right, flash of your microphones, guys. How we do it in the clubhouse room. Wow, looks like a Christmas tree here. Jesus Christ. That's only if you've got a question. Actually, let me reframe that. If you have a question, flash your mic, because everybody's flashing. Right, okay. I'm going to go Susan, Kimberly, Nichelle, and then we'll move down. We've still got 25 minutes left. Susan, good morning.
Morning, Spencer.
Hi, darling.
So, hello. Today I've got half a day, I'd say, probably, of interviews. So I'm interviewing. It's just a bit boring for an office administrator, but I want to kind of ask something different. And so my question to you is, Spencer, I imagine that you're probably to go in for an interview with, like Claude from The Apprentice. Like, I would shit myself. No offense to you, Spencer. Everyone knows what I mean. So my question is, how quickly do you decide whether you like somebody, and do you have like a great interview question for me that I can ask?
Okay, so there's behaviours. Everyone decides. So you'll decide whether, when you meet somebody for the first time, within 3 minutes, you'll decide whether you like that person. And then what you do, or not like them. And so then what you'll do for the rest of the interview, if you've decided that you like them, you'll be asking questions looking for more reasons to like them. If you don't like them, then you'll be asking questions looking for answers to demonstrate why you shouldn't like them. That happens naturally by all of us. I want to know, every time I've ever conducted an interview, I want to know what that person knows about my company. And if that person's done enough research and understands the industry and the company well enough, then I know that they care about the job. If it's just another job interview, they won't know the ins and outs. And so I would ask them to describe what the company does in detail and see if they can give you a key indication. I mean, there's a million great questions, but I just want to know that someone's done their homework before anything else. Yeah, I suppose that. Any questions you guys ask?
That statement's like, you want to see that someone's, it's like they've given an inch and then you give a mile. Like, it's like you just want to see that someone.
I start the same as you. Do you know what we do? Just that. Do you know what we do? And see what their answer, their response to that is. If it's very like surface level, then my decision's made up straight away.
After that, I actually like to know who they are outside of work. I like to actually see, because I want to make sure they're going to fit into a team as well. Because I always think that if there's not alignment with the team, like what happens is when you build a team, they end up like they're not the same people, but they normally have the similar interests and things like that. You want to make sure that person's probably going to either come in and be better than that team, or come in and gel and grow with that team. Because if you're going to, like what I'm saying is, they always say like a weed grows stronger than a flower. So you want to make sure that you're putting more flowers in. And I always, because I'm talking more around like a sales environment, you want to make sure that that person is going to come in and complement. Because one person can set a bar so low in an office and make it acceptable for every other person around that room to stay low.
I
hate negativity.
I think it was a podcast episode. I'm going to say, I think it was Nico Rosberg's podcast, and it was Toto Wolff. It might not have been. It might have been something to do, a high performance podcast with Jake Humphries. But anyway, it's Toto Wolff being interviewed. And I think the guy's phenomenal. I'm sure, as do you probably, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's great.
And when you hear him speak about assembling a team, building a team, and cognitive bias and different people from different backgrounds and fitting them in, it's a phenomenal. Like, listening to him, how he works it all out is a very. I'll forward you the interview if I can find it. It's really, really interesting. I bet he's a guest you'd love to get on the podcast.
Yeah, we're the boss of Mercedes F1 is a friend of somebody I know, and so we're trying to wangle that actually at the moment. I'm not sure it'll happen, but we're trying to.
Yeah.
So it's just different points of view, isn't it?
You've got a love for Formula One, haven't you? Which is
very passionate about it. Yeah,
you like that's your sport, is it? You
Yeah, I love watching it. Love being part of it. I said to my dad this year, I said, which race do you want to go to that you haven't been to yet, and a track you haven't been to? And he said, Austria. I was like,
well, that's beautiful, beautiful scenery.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. So I'm gonna go and pick my dad up and take my dad somewhere to one of the races this year for him, because my mum doesn't like to travel anymore, but. Yeah, I love Formula One. Yeah, I tried to organise a Formula One podcast, because I've got friends that work in Red Bull and Williams, McLaren and stuff. And one of my old friends is the co-host of Wheeler Dealers. So
he was on your podcast recently, wasn't he?
So I met him years ago and we became mates. But they weren't allowed to do it because they had to sign confidentiality agreements working for the teams, and so they couldn't do the podcast.
Okay.
So it would have been great having 4 guys from me plus 3 guys from 3 different teams, engineers, because they know what's going on down there.
Yeah.
All the stuff that we kind of think's in, building up. Is it happening? Is it not? They all know. They know who's in the team next year. They know the drivers. They'll tell you who's good and who's bad. Honestly.
Yeah. Biggest secret, we all know Lewis is coming back next year, don't we? He's of course he is, isn't it? But they'll keep it to the very last minute, won't they? Dramatise it a little bit. But,
I hope he does.
Yeah, I might eat my words if he doesn't. But that was terrible how that played out in the end, from a sporting perspective. I get, like that episode of the podcast when you can see why and how it occurred, but from a integrity and sporting point of view, it was just wrong, isn't it? And so many levels. Right, did I say it was Kimberly, didn't I? I said it was Kimberly. Is Kimberly still there? Is she there? She disappeared. Kimberly King was here, but she's not. Nichelle, I said, was next, didn't I? Nichelle after Kimberly. Nichelle, good morning.
Morning, Paul. Morning, everybody. Hi, Spencer.
All right.
All right. Just very quickly. So I don't love climbing mountains. That's a big fat lie. But I have climbed Kinabalu and Popocatépetl in Mexico, which is a live volcano. And that was all part of my sort of TA Army adventure training stuff. I'm much more comfortable below sea level than above it, scuba diving. But have you ever had Joe Simpson? I haven't got through all of your podcasts on a podcast when he did Touching the Void. And he had to cut his friend loose because they were attached by a rope. And I'm just curious, A, if you've seen that movie or that documentary, and B, what would you do in that situation?
Oh, gosh, what a question. Yeah, I've seen the documentary. I don't know. It's really easy to say what you do unless you're in the moment. It's like that's a big decision in that moment. So and I'm not sure I can answer that question in that way. But, yeah, I've definitely seen the movie. And... yeah, that's a big movie. That is Touching the Void.
Who's next? Jenny sent me a question. Jenny, are you there?
I am, yes.
Go for it. The mic is yours.
So obviously Dubai is a fascinating one, but what always interests me is hearing something like someone like yourself, Spencer, who clearly has, a heart and wants to help people and is really passionate about dealing with some of the big problems in the world. And you're living in somewhere like Dubai, I kind of see it as a really interesting dichotomy because, and just to caveat this, I've not been to Dubai. My only experience of it has been what I see on the television. So this may well be a part of it, but it's always portrayed as somewhere really lavish, somewhere where you have to be seen to have the latest thing, where money is frittered away on crazy stuff. I mean, I was watching the programme that I know you had a little cameo in the other day, and, one of the guys was wrapping his Bentley.
Spencer's sinking in the chair right now.
Yeah, I know. And it might well be that this is just how the media want to portray Dubai. But my question really is, how do you cope with living in a city that's so lavish and so everyone is all about showing wealth, and yet someone could spend £500,000 wrapping a car, or they could put that £500,000 into helping a charity or a foundation or something that's going to make real change in the world and solve some of the problems.
Mm-hmm.
How do you cope with living somewhere like that?
Where do you live?
Guildford in Surrey.
Okay, Guildford and Surrey is richer than Dubai.
Oh, okay.
London is 10 times richer than Dubai. So
I'm from Surrey as well.
I think people have a look.
I think Surrey.
I think people. I mean, that's so sad that it's portrayed that way. It's a city that's 50 years old. I lived there 17 years. 17 years ago, it isn't what it is today. It's a fast-growing city that's got lots of new buildings and shiny stuff, and it's tax-free, so it's attracted lots of wealthy people that don't want to pay tax. But London is gazillion times wealthier. If you'd have watched the Inside Monaco TV show that was on after, it made Dubai look like peasants, in the Inside Monaco thing. So be very careful, I think, on how you read and judge a situation. It's not always the truth just because it's in the news or on the television. It isn't a dichotomy to me at all. I'm very close to enormous poverty in Dubai, very close in terms of geographically very close, and more so than anybody here in the UK is. And so there are a lot of people out there that want to help all over the world. Hong Kong's richer, Singapore's richer, Sydney's richer, Sao Paulo's richer, Mexico City's richer. All these places are richer than Dubai. And there's a lot of good people in every city on the planet that want to do good things because they've got a good conscience. And so, as much as there are people that don't. So I don't think it's a dichotomy at all. I just think it's something that comes from someone's heart. And if you want to give and you want to help, then you do, no matter who you are and where you live.
Brilliant. Guys, we are, don't forget, we are live on YouTube as well, so you can click on our link tree at the top and you can go there and you can watch the live studio feed from our studio. We've got Spencer Lodge here with us in this studio. Me, I'm Paul in the middle, Ashley Shipman to my left, and we've got Spencer here, and we're doing Q&A with Spencer Lodge. So flash your microphones if you have a question. I'm going to go to Julie and then Jagdeep. Julie, good morning.
Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Spencer. Likewise, my takeaway from the EMC was the referral thing, and I've been telling all my clients about that too. So thank you for that. My question to you this morning is, what are your core values and have they changed? Because you were saying earlier on that you have changed as an individual, you've grown up, and you're knowingly less arrogant now, and you don't like to judge people and you don't like to be judged. What are your core values and how they changed? So back to you.
Interesting question. Yeah, they have changed over the years for sure. Because I was driven by different things back then than I am driven by now. I'm still seduced by competition. I'm still seduced by winning. I'm still seduced by leaning into stuff that I enjoy. But I'm more interested in relationships than I ever was, and so I value and respect relationships much more than I did 10 or 15 years ago. So I suppose that's some of the things. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you know, and I was coming on on Clubhouse and on this Winners Club before I came, was expecting some high energy, laugh a minute, gregarious, larger than life character. And when you see me on stage performing, as some of you may have seen, that's the character that I have to be. I'm I'm deeply introverted. I care very much about trying to look after myself, and I care very much about trying to be kind to other people. And I'm not that person that you see on the stage in my everyday life. I'm just somebody. I just want people to be successful and win, and so I constantly think about that kind of stuff. Does that help?
That's great. Thank you. I like that.
Thanks, Julie. Jagdeep, going to come to you. Going to try and get through as many of these in the next 12 minutes or so that we've got left. Jagdeep.
Yeah, hi, Spencer. Hi, Paul. Thanks, Spencer. You're always inspiring. Listening to you is always amazing. The question I have is there anything that scares you in the way humanity is at the moment, with your experience, with the things that you've been exposed to, that if we do not change the way we think and do things, that's going to have a massive sort of impact on the way the younger generation is going to be brought up? Thanks.
Yeah, I really fear for my kids' kids and the future that we are leaving them, the mess that we're making of the planet, the plastic waste that exists, the soil erosion that exists, the amount of CO2 that's emitted. I really think it's sad that we are so ignorant to it and just, brush it off like it's not relevant and don't take care to do the right thing. But I think more than anything else, working on the stuff that I'm working on with human trafficking, it's just seeing how governments and police forces pay so little attention to something that is so damaging to people's lives. And arguably human trafficking is a bigger problem than the drug industry, because humans can be sold over and over again, whereas a bag of cocaine can't. And why we're not, not a single person on the planet that's got kids would ever imagine something like that happening to their own kids. But it does happen. And so we, as human beings, and we need to lobby governments to take more time and effort to try and solve this problem, because I believe if we solve this problem, the world will be a much better place. So there's a number of things rather than just one thing that matters to me and my worries for the future.
What was, I think you said this when you came on the show briefly at EMC, this stuff's going on right under our nose, like Mayfair. You're staying in Sloane Square. It's going on in Sloane Square. It's going on in Mayfair in London. It's going on. I guarantee you it's going on the Cranbrook Road right now. Yeah. Where we are right now. Look, the human trafficking goes on everywhere. Every city, every town, it's taking place. You can't see it. It's buried, okay, but it is taking place. People are being bought and sold over and over again. Young girls, young boys. I know a guy that as a boy went through that whole experience. And we can do stuff about it if we can be alert to it and aware that happens. And people are trafficked all over the world, time and time again, and their threats on their family is just immense. If you don't do as you're told, we're going to kill your sister or we're going to kill your mum and dad. What kind of people do that? It's disgusting, but it does exist, and we just need to, all of us, do more about it. Yeah. Somebody's asked, just if you're in the room and you've heard us mention about EMC, somebody's asked what's the link for the EMC early bird tickets. If you click on the link that's at the top that Ashley's put to the top of this room, go to the link tree, and it's the third button down which says EMC early bird tickets. So you can click on there to take care of that. So go and look there. Mimi, you was flashing. Gonna come to you next, and then we'll go to Holly. Mimi. Going once, twice.
Sorry, I couldn't unmic. I'm so sorry.
There you go.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Spencer.
Hey.
I just wanted to ask you, I work with a lot of, especially men, CEOs and company directors and things. And some of them, they've accumulated so much wealth, and they've done some amazing things, as in charities and, businesses and everything else. But they always feel empty. There's always a void inside of them. So they always feel disappointed. And I hear this word all the time, still feel disappointed in things they're doing or things in the world, and a lot of depression in themselves. So then they go on a new journey of climbing mountains, scuba diving, and it all seems to be like reconnecting back to themselves, that they've lost that part. So their marriages are broken down, their relationships with their children. I just wanted to ask you, I know you was talking about success and what you deem as you being successful. Take the success away, because that's just a word. But do you ever sit down and think to yourself, like when you're walking on the beach in Dubai and you're on your own, like, I'm truly proud of myself for the achievements that I've achieved for other people and for myself? And do you look at yourself and think, well, you know, I'm amazing. I'm proud of myself. Do you ever get those moments where you sit and
do you want the truth?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I feel like a complete and utter failure all the time.
Wow.
Constantly.
That's so sad. Because other people, I know it doesn't matter what other people tell us. So when I look at you, I just think, and listening to you this morning, I mean, what an amazing, amazing thing you're doing in this world for other people. And we usually get our sense of self-gratification by helping others. But it'd be really lovely for us to be able to as well look at ourselves in the mirror and think, I'm really, really proud of you. Because you should be so proud of what you
know, I went through this years and years ago. I used to do this. I used to look at myself in the mirror every day, and I used to look deep into my pupils, and I used to have a good chat with myself to start the day. And it's a weird thing to do, but go and stand in front of the mirror. It's like a 10-minute exercise where you're looking deep into your pupils and you're having a conversation with yourself and maybe your subconscious or whatever you want to call it. And it used to work for me a treat. But I look back now, and people say, you know, if you had your time again, would you do the same things? No, I wouldn't. I would remember. I would, you know, ask a genie to give me more self-awareness. When I look at myself and think of myself as a failure, I think of myself also as a fraud. I also feel I'm ashamed of myself in some days. I don't look at the accolade that I get from others baffles me. It truly baffles me. I'm like, what do you see that I don't see here? Because I can't see it. I just see myself as a regular dude that went and did a few things, made some mistakes, went and did some more things, made some mistakes, and that's truly, you know, how I see myself. So, and as much as, you know, I'm sure, you know, there's people out there that do great things, that love the accolade and love the kind of like love the feeling they get from that. All I feel when I hear people talk about me like that is I feel like a bit of a fraud. Matt, I'll give you an example. Matt Wilson said to me, Spence, we're getting new speakers for EMC this year, apart from you. We want you to come back again. We love you. Everyone wants you there. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, you're the nuts and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what he's talking about. I'm sitting there, I go, of course, Matt, of course I'll support you. But I'm like, I've got no idea. What is it? You know, I'm looking at it going, what is it? Why do people want me? So...
It's the authenticity.
Huh?
People see like authentic.
People see an authentic person. Speaking, whatever they see, I don't believe it. And no matter what you would say, Paul, and Ash sitting here right now, or Mimi, or anybody else that's out there, I can't see what you can see, and so it doesn't serve me, sadly. I feel good about the stuff I do, the charitable stuff I do when I'm doing it. So I feel good about it in the moment of doing it. But yeah, apart from that, I really struggle with that.
And that's an amazing answer. And I really thank you so much for being so vulnerable and being so honest. And that's what I always find, that we always go on a quest to help others, and we fill everyone up and we do these amazing things in life. But the real work is for us to connect to ourselves and for us to realize just that we are, you know, to really love ourselves and appreciate who we are, because it's that lack of self-worth that we never feel good enough. And when that void's filled, then, like you said, it's coming from completely, but it's so sad because, like you said, we're so used to berating ourselves and other people berating us and other things. And like you said, we've got to champion ourselves first of all. So thank you so much, Ben. I really appreciate your answer, and have an amazing day. Thank you.
It's that word that everyone coins, doesn't it? Imposter syndrome.
People use imposter syndrome. Feeling like a fraud. I just, I really struggle with it. And it's like, and you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. You should be kinder to yourself, I think. I think you just, you know, everyone moves at different speeds and paces, and, you know, not everyone has to go at 100 miles an hour all the time, and not everyone has to be a millionaire, billionaire, squillionaire, whatever it might be. You know, we just have to be kind to yourself. And I don't mean be kind, lay on the sofa all day, 7 days a week, but be kind to yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself, and don't allow others to destroy how you feel about yourself. If you make mistakes, forgive yourself and pick yourself up, dust yourself down and move on, and hope that other people can forgive you too.
Fantastic. We've got two more questions which I've lined up. Three more actually. We'll get to the questions as quick. Kimberly's back, so I'm going to go to Kimberly because I said I'd go to Kimberly. Kimberly King, good evening to you. It's probably evening, late at night where you are.
It's almost 4 a.m.
Well, there. Good morning then.
And
Mega.
I want to thank all of you for a really great show today. You're hilarious with your story of the beginning with the power outage, and then brought us a truly meaningful interview this morning. And Spencer, I want to say to you that, success brings us a lot of things, a lot of great things. But most importantly, it brings us a stage, a platform. And most people don't use it very well. And so I want to tell you how impressed I've been this morning. Your business success speaks for itself, and you have many lessons from your journey that people are hungry to hear, and you should keep sharing them because everyone is aspiring to achieve their best. But I want to commend you for using your platform in your life to do so much more and to be willing to share it with such transparency and authenticity and impact. Everyone here heard it today, and I am genuinely and deeply impressed by that. Thank you. It was worth getting up at this hour
Thank
to
you
hear
so
this
much for your
conversation
kind
from
words.
all of you.
Thank
you so
that just
much.
blew my mind. Thank you, Kimberly. That means a lot.
Thanks, Kimberly. Right. We've got 1 minute and 2 questions, so we'll get through these as quick as we can. Holly, Mike is yours, and then it's Beju for a question. Holly, good morning.
Good morning, Paul. Thank you. And Ashley, sorry. Spencer, thank you. I just want to honor you. I'm sorry, this is almost too much. I just want to honor you, Spencer, and I want to honor you as well, Paul and Ashley, for this interview today. And I'm going to honor James. I'm not sure if he's
Don't
around.
do that. He's not listening.
Right,
Don't
I
worry
won't
about
honor
James.
Right. Paul and Ashley, thank you so much for this. Spencer, thank you for staying. You told us that you went home to say goodbye to your children. Thank you to your dad for intuiting that you needed him. And I just want to ask you, please, if there is a man right now somewhere in the world who is feeling the way you were on that day, that your dad came in and rescued you and took you to where you could talk it through and not do what you were planning to do, I'm going to ask you to just share what you would say to that man. But I want to tell you that I'm coming from a place of incredibly big pain myself, because in February 1992, my brother-in-law, and I'd only been married 5 months, committed suicide at the age of 39 in Australia. And my Australian husband and I, we were in our 20s, we just got married. Within 48 hours, we'd left Britain, and I was on a one-way journey to Australia. And that one act has continued to impact all of our lives. And so I just want to thank you, Spencer, for staying on the planet, for being here. And I can hear your voice is full of tears. I can hear it. And the final thing, my brother's also in Dubai. I nearly didn't have my brother. He survived leukemia at the age of 5. He was 1 in 10 children who survived. You're here. You survived that, Spencer. You've got a journey and a place and you've got work to do, my friend. So I want to ask you, please, to that man or that woman or that child who is where you were on that day, what brief message have you got for them now? I'm Holly. I'm done speaking.
Thank you, Holly. That's really kind of you. Just don't give up. It's literally as simple as that. Things will get better. It always does, and it's something that if you're in that dark place yourself right now, as I was, then that's what you've got to keep saying to yourself. Don't give up. Don't give up. Things will get better. Don't take you to the place, because you're a long time dead and you're here on this planet. You can make a difference to so many different things if you stay alive, and also understand that you doing something like that will, for sure, impact so many people around you the way that you wouldn't want it to. So it's just not worth it.
Brilliant. Let's. Great question, Holly. Great answer. Let's get to Beiju's question, and we're going over this week, aren't we? Of the rooms,
Yeah.
3 minutes over.
Paul, I'm going to leave it. I think that was a great way to finish, and my question was quite futile in relation to that. But just want to say, Spencer, insight's great. You come from the similar background to me, and I think what you said about you feel like am I worthy of all this? A lot of people, whatever in their journey, can relate to that, and I just want to sort of honour you for expressing that, because that shows actually, on the surface, however successful you are and deeply successful, you can still have those demons in your head. And I think when Sarah asked the question about, some people have gone really bad and other people from the outside, they're really, really good. But each of our own demons, and we need to respect those. We don't know anybody's journey. So just want to honour you, Spencer. Greatly listening to you. And Paul, back to you.
Thanks, Beju.
Brilliant. Look, Spencer, I want to say thank you for coming in, mate. The messages in all the various channels are going crazy, so we could keep this going for another 2 hours, I think, with the amount of questions. So yeah, thank you so much, and
thank
sorry
you
if it's been uncomfortable, but
no, it hasn't. No, don't think that at all. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You'd have to fly all the way from Dubai just for us again. Just for us again. I know.
And maybe you can come to Dubai and you can do it in Dubai.
That would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
That would be good. We have got plans for a Winners Club World Tour. We're going to go and see Kimberly. We're going to come to Dubai. We're going to go and see Credit Ninja in Las Vegas. There's some good places we could go on our world tour.
Yeah.
Take a little mobile studio with us. Everyone, thank you so much for being here, participating this morning. Thank you for all your questions. This community wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for everybody driving the questions and participating along. So thank you so much for being part of it. What a great morning. Anything we've mentioned this morning is up on the link at the top of the link tree, so feel free to go there before we close this room and click on that and follow through to the various links. EMC tickets, the mastermind that we've got, the app that we're taking applications for, that's all up there. So go and check that out, and you can check out our YouTube channel where this interview is then going to live as well. You can see the video of this on YouTube. Any final words, guys?
No, what a great show. Thanks for your time, Spencer.
No worries. Thank you very much for having me. I've really enjoyed every part of this. I enjoy your sessions, and thank you for all your great questions, folks. I really appreciate it. And wishing you all a successful week ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to go and educate Ashley on what a switch is in a fuse board. So,
and how to open a blind.
And how to open the blind, yeah. Thank you. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody, and we will be back on Monday morning. Just so you know, Ashley is now trying to defend his actions this morning and trying to see. Can you see how it happened? Can you see how I couldn't see through the blind? That is what he's trying to do here in front of me. So I just thought I'd keep you updated with that. He's still trying to do it. See you later, everybody. Goodbye. I've got a little bit to do here, but nothing in, but yeah, nothing. I've got various bits and pieces to do.
It's good to try and get someone like that. Like most days
Did he drive it, Spencer, or was he?
I had just assumed he was driving. I had guided him to come down with News. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So I didn't want him to turn up and go out the front.
James that's good at taking selfies. Right, how you gonna do it? So facing this way, I would say, yeah.
I think the recruiters as well.
Sure. Where do you want me to stand?
I don't know, in the middle of us. I'm not the best at selfies, but
Yeah, do it this way maybe. Right, that's it, cool. That's it, that'll do it. Oh, well, you got to go back to, mate, Sloane Square.
Yeah, but I promised to take my girls shopping, so I was in Cody over Christmas, so I didn't see them. So, yeah. Where's the tube station?
So come out onto Cranbrook Road.
I'm walking down Tesco's.
Oh yeah. Ilford Station is overground, but it gets you into Liverpool Street 12 minutes.
Okay.
So then from Liverpool Street you can go.
Can you pay with your credit card?
Yeah, you can just tap. Yeah, just tap.
Well,
It's a good see, mate.
from Tesco's.
When you come back, just a large bottle of water, like flavoured water. Top man, Spencer. Cheers, mate. See you later.